I've been married to my husband Mark for 6 years. When we first met, we talked extensively about our future goals, and having children was something we both agreed we wanted. We decided to wait a few years to establish our careers and financial stability before starting a family. 3 years ago, we officially began trying for a baby. Month after month went by with no success. After a year of trying, I went to my gynecologist, who ran tests and found nothing obviously wrong. She suggested Mark get tested as well, since male fertility issues account for about half of conception difficulties. Mark seemed reluctant but eventually agreed. However, he kept forgetting to make the appointment. After several months of gentle reminders, he finally went in for testing. A week later, he came home looking somber and showed me the results. He had 0 sperm count. The doctor had apparently told him it could be due to a variety of medical issues, from hormonal imbalances to physical blockages, and recommended further testing. I was devastated, but tried to stay positive. We discussed our options: further fertility testing, possibly IVF if his condition could be treated, or adoption if it couldn't. Mark seemed uncomfortable during these conversations, but agreed to follow up with a specialist. The next 2 years became an emotional roller coaster of appointments, tests, and treatments. I researched everything about male infertility, changed our diets, bought special vitamins, tracked optimal timing, everything the doctors suggested. Mark went through with the appointments but always seemed detached from the process, which I attributed to how difficult fertility struggles can be for men's self-esteem. Through all of this, I blamed myself in many ways. Maybe the stress of my job was affecting our chances. Maybe those few months when I was slightly underweight had caused hormonal issues. I joined support groups, went to therapy, and worked through the grief and shame that comes with infertility. Mark declined to join me in therapy, saying he was processing in his own way. Last week, I was searching for some tax documents in our home office when I found a folder in Mark's desk that I hadn't seen before. Inside was a medical receipt from 6 years ago, a few months before our wedding, for a vasectomy, along with a follow-up test confirming it was successful. My entire world collapsed in that moment. 6 years of marriage, 3 years of trying for a baby, 2 years of invasive tests, treatments, tears, and self-blame, all while he knew exactly why we couldn't conceive. I sat in the office, documents in hand, until Mark came home from work. When he walked in and saw what I was holding, his face went pale. Before he could speak, I asked him with eerie calmness to explain. What came out was both infuriating and heartbreaking. Mark admitted he had never wanted children, but knew I did. He was afraid of losing me if he told the truth, so he got a vasectomy secretly before our wedding, assuming that after years of trying, I would eventually accept that we couldn't have children and give up on the idea. He said he thought I would get over wanting kids once we had been married longer and our life was comfortable without them. When I asked about the years of fertility treatments, the specialists, the emotional turmoil we'd been through, he simply said he didn't know how to get out of the lie once it started. He actually tried to suggest that since I now knew the truth, we could move forward with our marriage based on complete honesty. I was too shocked and hurt to even scream. I simply told him to pack his things and leave. He protested, saying we needed to talk about this, that he loved me and we could work through it. I told him there was nothing to work through. He had made a unilateral decision that affected my entire life, watched me suffer, and lied to my face every single day for years. His family has been blowing up my phone since he left, saying I'm overreacting. They're arguing that while Mark made a mistake, throwing away 6 years of marriage is extreme. His sister texted that lots of couples deal with fertility issues and stay together, completely missing the point that this wasn't about infertility, it was about deception. My own parents are divided. My mother thinks I should at least consider counseling before making permanent decisions, while my father is furious on my behalf and says he never trusted Mark anyway. Some of our mutual friends have suggested that perhaps Mark truly believed I would change my mind about wanting children, and that his lie, while terrible, came from a place of fear rather than malice. Others have pointed out that forgiveness doesn't have to mean staying in the relationship. I'm still in shock, oscillating between numbness, rage, and devastating grief. I feel like my entire marriage was based on a fundamental lie, and the future I thought we were building together never existed. At the same time, 6 years is a long time to share your life with someone, and walking away completely feels like another loss on top of everything else. Mark has been calling daily, alternating between apologies, defensiveness, "you're acting like I committed a crime," and pleas for a second chance. He's now saying he might consider reversing the vasectomy, though the success rates decline over time, and after 6 years, there's no guarantee it would work. I'm 35 now. If I want to have children, I need to start over completely, find someone new, build a relationship, and try to conceive, all with the clock ticking. The thought is overwhelming, but staying with someone who could lie so profoundly and watch me suffer also seems impossible. Am I the a-hole for kicking him out instead of trying to work through this? Should I at least attempt counseling, or is this level of deception unforgivable? Update: it's been 2 months since my original post, and I want to thank everyone for their supportive comments and insights. They truly helped me during the darkest moments. After much reflection and several sessions with my therapist, I filed for divorce. The papers were served to Mark 3 weeks ago. His reaction was a mix of anger, bargaining, and finally a reluctant acceptance that our marriage was over. The revelation about the vasectomy opened my eyes to other patterns of dishonesty in our relationship that I had overlooked or excused. My therapist helped me recognize that Mark's deception wasn't a single bad decision, but rather a fundamental character issue. He was willing to manipulate my life to suit his preferences while watching me suffer. Some development since my original post. I discovered through our divorce proceedings that Mark had also been hiding money in a separate account, not a huge amount, but enough to show he had been planning contingencies without my knowledge for years. This only confirmed that dishonesty was a pattern, not an isolated incident. Several of Mark's family members have reached out to apologize after learning the full story. His younger brother in particular expressed shock and said he couldn't imagine how anyone could defend such behavior. That validation from his own family helped me feel more confident in my decision. As for moving forward, I've frozen my eggs as a way to give myself options while taking the pressure off finding a new relationship immediately. It was expensive, but worth it for the peace of mind. My doctor was cautiously optimistic about the number and quality of eggs retrieved. I've moved into a new apartment and am slowly rebuilding my sense of self. There are still difficult days when I grieve not just the end of my marriage, but the years lost to a future that was never possible. However, there are also increasingly frequent moments when I feel genuine relief and hope. The hardest part has been accepting that the person I trusted most was capable of such calculated deception. My therapist says that's normal, that grieving the person I thought I married is a separate process from dealing with the actual person Mark turned out to be. To those who suggested I was overreacting or should try to forgive him, I understand the impulse to preserve a long-term relationship, but some betrayals cut too deep to the foundation of trust. This wasn't a one-time mistake or a secret kept out of momentary weakness. This was a years-long campaign of deception about something fundamental to my life goals and identity. Thank you again to everyone who helped me feel less crazy during a time when I was questioning my own judgment. I'm still healing, but for the first time in months, I'm also hopeful about what comes next.